Welcome to Media Melanie Talks TV. I'm Melanie, and today I'm back to talk about The Handmaid's Tale, Season 6, Episode 4, and it's called Promotion. As I've been mentioning, probably one of the most disturbing shows on television. Sometimes it is hard to watch, although I do think the impact of the first seasons definitely hit harder. I do think we will be seeing some definite chaos and bloodshed this season, though, as it does come to a conclusion and will spin off into the Testaments. And that said, just out of respect for people that maybe haven't read the books, looking at me and people in the comments, please don't spoil the ending of Handmaid's Tale. I am approaching this as a TV viewer. I do not know what happened in the book, so I want my opinions and reviews to be authentic and just based on what I see when I'm watching the show. So just thank you in advance for that. Really appreciate it. And speaking of The Handmaid's Tale and Elisabeth Moss, as I also mentioned before, Elisabeth Moss starred in Mad Men with John Hamm, one of my favorite series of all time, and I am now covering Your Friends and Neighbors on Apple TV+, which is very Hamm-centric. It does give the kind of Don Draper vibes, like what if Don Draper got divorced and lived in the suburbs type of situation. He is stealing from his wealthy friends and neighbors and gets caught up in this deadly web. So if you love John Hamm as much as I do, then definitely check out Your Friends and Neighbors on Apple TV+. Make sure that you do like this video and subscribe to the channel for more TV talk. I'm really excited to cover more shows this summer as well. Poker Face is coming to Peacock with its second season in May, and The Summer I Turned Pretty is coming to Amazon Prime for its final season in July. I've also been loosely thinking about covering The Buccaneers on Apple TV+, which will be back for a second season. So engaging interest for that. Drop in the comments, is that the type of show you watch? Would you be interested in hearing me talk about it? Definitely let me know. Okay, let's get into this episode of The Handmaid's Tale. It is called Promotion, and my initial takeaways. Now, first of all, the season as a whole has looked great. As always, the cinematography is beautiful. The actors are playing their roles well. But the pacing, is anybody else feeling like this is dragging out? I understand they are building dramatic tension for this revolution, but it's now episode 4, and I am still waiting for things to happen. And speaking of tension, Luke and June are going to be alienated from each other. I posed the question in my last video, are you team Nick or are you team Luke? After watching this episode, for me, I am solidified on team Nick. I think Luke has definitely taken a page from June's handbook and wants to get involved in this revolution, wants to be a difference maker like June has been. However, I think June's at the point now where, yes, she is getting involved. She's inserting herself into this whole situation with Jezebel's. But because Moira and Luke are both in it, I think if they were not involved with this Mayday movement, June would be content heading back to Alaska, perhaps living happily ever after with Holly and her mom. But unfortunately, that's not the case. She keeps doing June things, and that's fine. Obviously, we need this final season and things to be wrapped up. But the way it's going with her marriage, I don't know. I just don't see them ending up together. And the fact that in the last episode, she said, Luke waited for me to Nick, that is just not solid enough for me to believe that these two are soulmates. And hey, maybe none of them are soulmates and June will end up being on her own anyway. I do believe the shared trauma and experience between Nick and June is something that you cannot take away and that holds more water than even the years spent in a traditional typical marriage before Luke and June got separated. And yes, they are wanting to go get Hannah. That's at the core of it all. And I mean, will we see Hannah again? I sure hope so. I don't know if they will get a happily ever after. And whether or not they do get reunited with Hannah in New Bethlehem or not, I don't think either way that will impact the longevity of Luke and June's marriage. So I ask again, and I'll probably ask every single episode, Team Luke or Team Nick, please drop it in the comments. For me, Team Nick 100%. You know what? He loves June, and that is clear in every single action that he takes and everything he does. And despite the fact that he's married to the daughter of a high-ranking commander in Washington, D.C., he's still taking risks. He killed somebody, and I'm still waiting for the downfall from that. When he goes back to take care of those bodies, who's going to follow him and see what's going on? I think Commander Wharton is definitely suspicious of him. Rose is certainly suspicious. Everybody knows that Nick loves June. I mean, you can read the guy like a book. Will that end up with him getting caught, perhaps executed, which would obviously be super tragic for June? I think she would take that very hard. And let's say Nick does get killed, right? And Luke and June do end up together. I don't think June will ever be happy. I think she will still have that yearning for Nick. Speaking of Nick, I also posited in my last video, who is Serena going to marry this season? We did see her walking down the aisle in the trailer. And another thing solidified for me in this episode, she's gonna marry Commander Wharton. Are you kidding? He's had a crush on her since he saw her dancing and didn't have the courage to go and talk to her at this ball in Washington, D.C. Serena didn't even remember. I mean, come on. The guy, besides being a commander in like the worst place on earth, seems like a good guy. He did the cooking in the family. He is serving Serena. He is dancing in the street with her. Could he be romancing her anymore? And is it genuine? Or does Serena not remember seeing him because maybe that didn't happen? Now, I didn't rewatch that, so I'm not 100% sure whether it did or not. If you know, drop it in the comments. But could he just be doing this for looks, for the vanity of it all, and to have a powerful person who was a difference maker, who helped conceive this whole notion of Gilead in the first place, minus some of the atrocities, of course? Could this all be for show? Or do we think that he's genuinely interested in her and loves her? Is this a Serena love story happy ending? I don't want her to get a happily ever after. I want her to get the ending that she deserves. She does not deserve a happy ending. She deserves kind of a medium ending, if you will. Not a happy one, maybe not tragic where she gets killed, but I don't want her living in holy matrimonial bliss. That's not what I want for Serena. I want her to suffer as she should, but we also see her trying to do the right thing. She is reuniting Rita with her sister and saying, I had to pull all these strings. Is she saying that to convince herself that she's a good person and doing the right thing? Or are her motives actually innocent and she really does want this new Bethlehem to be a place where bad things are not happening? Which leads me to the next question. Are bad things going to happen in New Bethlehem? I am not convinced that this is going to be the safe haven for refugees to come back and reunite with their families and just happily ever after. Following what's gone on in Gilead and what goes on in the colonies, I can't see the same people who are in charge and leaders buying into it. They were able to sell the diplomats parading around the babies and pregnant Rose, but is this all a facade? I kind of think so. And with revolution afoot, certainly it's not just going to be this safe haven for everybody. I mean, they want us to feel safe there, but I think that facade of safety will come shattering down at some point. And I just don't see New Bethlehem being the place that they are convincing us that it can be or wants to be. What do you think? Is New Bethlehem going to do a 180 from what happened in Gilead and actually offer a life worth living where people are not essentially entrenched in slavery? Or do we think there's a nefarious undercurrent and Wharton is at the head of it all? I would love to know your thoughts, so drop them below. One of my favorite love to hate characters in this show is Commander Lawrence. The opening line when Angela comes and gives him the painting and he's like, "Oh, is it sticky?" And then calling back to the relationship with Janine's daughter at the end of the episode where he's reading her this story, and then interspersed in there when he goes to Jezebel's and sees Janine. And no, he's not a commander that's in there trying to rape these women, because let's face it, it is rape if these women are held there in slavery, even if they're pretending like they would like to engage in these activities. They don't, certainly not Janine. I love Janine's comment with the C word. She was so spot on. And you know what? He did marry a C word and she's pretty terrible. And we'll see how that all goes. Despite her touting the fact these other commanders thrive on virility, Lawrence is like, get out of here, lady. He's just married to her for show. Just like I propose that Wharton and Serena will be married for show. But I do think that the difference is behind closed doors, Lawrence is not giving his wife the time of day. Whereas with Wharton and Serena, yes, he's romancing her now, but I do think that could continue into their marriage. Or it completely unravels. He fools her into marrying her, and then things are completely ridiculous between the two of them. But I lean more towards Wharton having genuine feelings for Serena and them actually maybe having a somewhat meaningful marriage. And I guess the question too is, will Serena have a choice or will she be forced into it? Hopefully she's given the choice, just given that New Bethlehem is supposed to be a more free environment where, again, women are not forced to do things they don't want to do. However, I would love to see Janine somehow freed from Jezebel's. Now, June is going to go in there after she was very critical of the plans. And yeah, June's a hero. Everybody knows that. She can go in there, she can get in, she can get out, she can get intel, or she ends up getting caught and killed this season, not sure. But I hope that she's able to go in and somehow rescue Janine and free her from where she is being held right now and eventually reunite her with Angela. There is nothing I would like to see more than Janine getting to be a mom to Angela. Janine's been a phenomenal character. She's grown quite a bit. She's developed a backbone, really learning a lot of that from being friends with June. And I hope this relationship with her and Commander Lawrence will actually result in some sort of meaningful ending for Janine as well. And I'm not sure what that will mean for Aunt Lydia. I do know Aunt Lydia will be in the Testaments. I don't know much more about that again, so please don't spoil it in the comments. But maybe Aunt Lydia is the one who is able to get Janine out and reunite her with Angela. Either way, I just want to see Janine happy with her daughter. And same with June and Luke and Hannah. And same with every single person who birthed a child in Gilead who was not able to be their parent. It is so tragic and sad and, again, horrifying television show, but I just can't stop watching. But now that it's the final season, I will stop watching and I will probably watch the Testaments. We'll see what the political climate is at the time and if I can mentally handle that TV load, but we will see. We also have a new commander this season. Timothy Simons has entered the chat. He was recently in Nobody Wants This on Netflix, which was one of my favorite shows from last year. Complete polar opposite show as The Handmaid's Tale. That one is a comedy about a will they, won't they couple, and he plays the brother of Adam Brody. Fantastic show, and if you're looking for something that is comedic, that is funny, that is light and not dark, could not recommend that one more if you haven't watched it. And season 2 is already filming. I'm definitely going to be covering that in some capacity. So if you like Timothy Simons, he does play a complete dick in this show, misogynistic, going to Jezebel's, doing what men do there. But his character in Nobody Wants This is so funny and endearing. So if you like him as an actor, do not miss that. Let's talk about Luke again for a moment. Do we think that Luke is so gung-ho about this because of what happened with Nick and seeing June with Nick again in the last episode? Or do we think it just has more to do with Hannah and the fact that both Luke and Moira have lived a different life and existence from June since they were in Canada as refugees? And the fact that they didn't tell June what they were doing, I mean, yeah, Luke waited for her, but that can't be okay for June, not being aware of what's happening, the fact that they did not keep her in the loop. And he mentions at one point, we're just two lunatics going into Gilead on a wing and a prayer. And it does seem like they're able to kind of come to an agreement. But I don't know, the discord between the two of them with not having informed June, and then the fact that June's actually the one that goes in to rescue them with her ex, Nick, I mean, that can't be sitting well with Luke. So I do wonder if that is a driving factor for him. Moira, on the other hand, does say something like, I can't keep living your life. And she wants to differentiate herself and maybe be a hero on her own terms and not live in the shadow of June, who's always the one who's going in and saving the day, who's become this folk hero of Gilead. Moira and Luke do both seem to want to carve their own paths for their own reasons. I'm wondering if they will end up being successful, or maybe the tragedy in all of it is that they are so gung-ho, they're the ones who end up dying, and then June is going to blame herself for not convincing them to step back. Even though June is the one who's going to go into Jezebel's, Moira's still involved here. So there's still time for something bad to happen to her as well. And I love Moira. Do not get me wrong. She's been a great friend to June. Loved her over the course of the show. Love the actress in Orange is the New Black. There is definitely this line drawn between Luke and Moira and June now. So how do we think that will end up? And I did mention that Serena helped Rita come to New Bethlehem and reunite with her sister. It was also interesting seeing her and Nick reunited. And she says, you were just a baby when I first met you, and look at you now. And that gives major credence to the fact that Nick has come a long way. He was a driver, he was an eye. Now he's a commander. And not only is he a commander, but he's married to one of the most powerful commander's daughters, which does put him in the spotlight, but he's still thinking with his heart. And that is something that endears me the most about Nick, is his risk-taking nature, the fact that he still does everything for June. He still loves June. This is such a tragic love story, and there is nothing I want more after seeing these last few episodes than for Nick and June to end up together. Can we please get a happy ending, at least for one of these characters? I mean, hey, maybe if something does happen to Luke and Moira, then June will have a clear path to Nick, but will Rose stand in the way, or will she defer to June? Will Wharton allow that to even happen in general? The web that is being woven and the connections being made between June and Nick, something that's continued through the seasons, but now with Wharton and Serena, and this kind of tangled web where Serena is always involved tangentially. And imagine if Nick and June do end up together, and Serena and June end up being sort of in-laws, kind of, I guess. That would be pretty interesting too. But I still don't buy Wharton's motivation for Serena. He needs her as a salesperson to sell this place, get the other countries on board, to get refugees there. But are they just going to trap them there? Is he going to use Serena, marry her, and then it turns out that Serena is complicit and guilty once again for playing such a big role in selling this concept to people, only to have it come crashing down with more atrocities after horrific events? I don't want to see the terrible things that happen in the first couple of seasons of The Handmaid's Tale. They were hard to watch the first time. I don't want to see these characters be lifted up only to be smashed back down again and have their souls absolutely crushed. Imagine being told you're going there to reunite with your loved ones and relatives, and then you find out after a couple months or 6 months or however long, oh no, this is not what I thought it was going to be. I should have just stayed in Alaska. And if I was some of those refugees, yes, it is very tempting to want to go to New Bethlehem and have that reunion, assuming you can even figure out that you've got a loved one there. I would be staying in Alaska or Hawaii all day. You could not get me to leave that place once again. If I was a handmaid, if I was a Martha, if I was anybody in Gilead, there is no chance I would ever trust those people and go back there again. Just like no chance whatsoever, ever. Call me an Alaskan for life at that point. But like Serena said, with climate change, the fertility challenges, the eco-collapse of everything that's going on in the world, I mean, New Bethlehem is very tempting because it might be one of the only places where they are breathing clean air, where they are successfully having babies for another generation. So maybe people will feel like there's really no choice because everywhere else is kind of falling apart. And New Bethlehem does offer this sanctuary, this community, this place of rebirth. I mean, Bethlehem itself in the real world has extreme biblical significance. It was the birthplace of King David. It was the birthplace of Jesus Christ for Christians. Does it truly represent rebirth, or is this all a facade? But Bethlehem has also had a tricky political climate and past and history. So I do wonder if New Bethlehem will be kind of the same thing. Will it be a battle between factions, for a battle over religion? I think that's the biggest question that I'm going to keep asking this season, along with, of course, will Nick end up with June or Luke? But is New Bethlehem going to be what they are setting it up to be? With 6 episodes left, there is a lot of room for this revolution that we've seen in the trailers. And will the revolution spill over into New Bethlehem in addition to Gilead? Will Nick change his mind and decide to actually work with America, whereas he destroyed the phone and said that he wasn't going to do it anymore? Nick's journey is definitely the most fascinating for me at this point. And again, the questions of, will Hannah be reunited with her family again? Will Janine get reunited with Angela? What is Aunt Lydia's role going to be this season? Will the revolution be successful or not? Will America maybe be able to reclaim New Bethlehem? So, a little sneak peek at next week's episode, episode 5. Guess what the title is, you guys? It's called Janine. And the IMDb description reads, June and Moira go undercover. Serena and Nick make consequential choices. Ooh, what are the consequences going to be? Are they going to talk about Serena potentially marrying Rose's dad? Will June and Moira be able to successfully work together despite the fact that there does seem to be a little bit of a chasm growing between them? Or will there be some animosity between the two of them over the fact that June is harboring a little bit of resentment for the fact that she and Luke did this without her and didn't let her know in the first place? And now that Luke is free, I mean, he's free to go. He can be deported back to Alaska, no problem, but he's choosing not to. He's choosing to stay and fight instead of that happy ending that June conveys that, yeah, she would like that. Let's go see Holly. She's getting so big. She would love to see you. It seems like Luke has just no interest in that whatsoever. Is it bad that I kind of wish that that will be his downfall and he is taken out and June will end up with Nick? And what choice is Nick going to make that's going to have consequences? Is he choosing June or is he choosing Rose and Wharton and he's going to do a complete 180 and decide, you know what? When June said loved in the past tense, that was enough for me to move on. I don't think so. I think that June will always be in his heart and the decisions that he makes will always be driven by his love for June. Be sure that you like this video and subscribe to my channel. I'll be here with weekly coverage. Next week is episode 5, which is going to be halfway through the season. There's 10 episodes in total. And being that they gave us 3 at once, it should fly by from here. Do you have a favorite episode of the season so far? And I'm hoping that all roads will lead to a very satisfying series finale for The Handmaid's Tale. Like I said, I've got lots of other shows coming up. I'm currently covering Your Friends and Neighbors on Apple TV+, looking forward to Poker Face, The Summer I Turned Pretty, potentially The Buccaneers, and some of the Last of Us content. But either way, I appreciate you tuning in, and I'll be back again soon. Media Melanie, clicking off.